I guess the dream of like the whole transformation vibe is to really have a team that represents us as a country. Like, and I've always said this: you can achieve both. You can have a very good team like you have right now, and you can try to tick off transformation goals and whatnot. But like you say, bro, like I've never seen, especially like as a Black South African, I've never seen so many people invested in the Springboks and what they do. And there's a real authentic belief that, you know, these guys are representing us.
How's it, and welcome back to Arcade Studio Podcast, Calling Home. Today's guest is Khanyisa Jamjam. He is a fantastic stand-up comic and a huge box supporter, so we could not speak about the massive hangovers that we had on Monday morning after the huge victory the Boks did over the French, sending the hosts out of the World Cup. We also speak about the upcoming game on Saturday with England. We speak about the Boks in general, how important they are to society in South Africa, and how people from all walks of life are really starting to get behind the team. We also talk about the stand-up comedy scene in South Africa, how important Trevor Noah was for it, and how he sees it going forward. Please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the reminder bell. Also, if you agree or disagree with anything I've said, make sure to say so down below in the comments, and I will definitely be engaging with you over there. We can have a bit of fun and a bit of back and forth. Also, if you have any ideas for future guests, people that you'd really like us to talk to, please also shoot those in the comments or send us a direct mail on Instagram, and we can really have some fun with that. So, without further ado, here we go with Khanyisa Jamjam.
My full name is Khanyisa Jamjam. So my second name was, because I got an older brother, so my second name means like the second born son. High five, yeah.
You're from PE originally?
Originally, I was born in Mthatha, and then my family moved to PE when I was 2 years old. So I'm basically from PE, bro.
All right. Amazing. So like I said earlier, I discovered you because obviously now with the World Cup on my feed as a South African, just full of like South African commentary about the rugby. And it's relatively well. I've just started to recover from Sunday because it was a quarterfinal.
Yeah, man. Sunday was Sunday. Yeah, after that win, I also took it a bit too far, bro. I was a bit wilding out in these streets, and like I said, I probably fully recovered yesterday. Like today, I feel like a proper human being. Like I'm actually an active member of society today. I can contribute. Like Monday I was down bad, but it was worth it, man.
It was amazing. That game was really like one of the best games I've ever seen in my life, and to see the boys just really pull it out the hat like that, it was just fantastic.
Yeah, because I don't think people realize the pressure of playing France in France with that whole "this is the golden generation" tag. And they had beaten us previously. Start of the World Cup, they beat France and beat New Zealand in the opening match. So it was all literal, like all media outlets, France favorites. And sports doesn't work on favorites, right? Like a lot of the time, people are favorites. Like remember when New Zealand had that drought of not winning the World Cup since like 1987.
Yeah.
I'll never forget like how they came into the 2007 World Cup. People were saying like their B team can win the World Cup. Like that's how good New Zealand was. Like 2007, it was like there's no way these guys can't win it. And then France had other ideas in the quarterfinals. So it's like just because you're a favorite does not guarantee you anything. And I think because the Springbok squad specifically has been there in those high pressure moments, that is what sometimes carries you through, right? Like you've been in that position before with your backs against the wall, so you know exactly, those small things that you can't learn, man. You know what I mean? Like the mentality to be like, guys, this is the last 10 minutes. This is how you execute the last 10 minutes, kind of.
The last 15, it was like literally they took control of the game. And they just let the French play, and you could just see them they didn't know what to do anymore. The French were just like they were passing the ball.
There was a point in that game, bro, when you could see the French were like, damn, but this usually works against the other teams that we've been beating. This usually works. Like, and they were just getting met with this defense that was like not giving an inch. So all the usual slick stuff like that they were doing in the first half, especially, it just stopped for some. Like that last 15 minutes, the Springboks just did not allow them to even try get into that groove of what they've been doing recently to other teams. Yeah.
You know, it was really, really incredible. And then I would watch the All Blacks the night before, and I was like, oh, if the All Blacks play like this, I don't see us winning. And then I saw how we played, and I was like, oh, okay, I feel confident.
Bro, I will be disappointed if both teams aren't in the final.
Yeah, I'm already counting my chickens, but of course we have the England match before that. But big weekend next weekend as well.
Barring referee decisions or some act of God, I don't see it. Right? Like England, you know what I mean? England are just England don't have enough BMT players. England, I think England are shocked to even be in this position that they're in.
I think they got through because their draw was super simple at the end of the day, and then they got a Fiji side that.
Really, you know, this is what I was discussing with some of my friends, man. That this thing of doing the draw of the World Cup so early is a bit shaky. It's a bit like World Rugby needs to look into it, because the way it was structured is that some weak teams could have like pretty much made the semi-finals and whatnot, and then like imagine if we had played New Zealand in the quarterfinals. That's wild.
It would be crazy. But at the same time, it's given us so many games. Like we had the Scotland game, the Ireland game, we had the French game, the England game is always a big game. So we're going to have fun with that one. And then one of the top teams will be in, like two of the top teams will be in the final for sure, I think. So at the end of the day, on the one side, it was just like banger after banger. We got France, New Zealand, South Africa, Ireland, South Africa, Scotland. There were just so many bangers one after the other that I'm actually excited about this kind of draw, because I was like, okay, I mean, yeah, it sucks that two of the teams are out before the semis, but who cares? I mean, we got semifinals at the quarters. It was great. So from like a spectator point of view and just having fun, it was like amazing. You know?
Yeah, that's true. You make a good point there.
Do you watch when you're watching the games? Do you watch it with Khoza commentary, or are you watching it?
Bro, right now, I'm not watching with Khoza commentary, because the DSTV package that me and my brother have isn't like, it's like one of the online package. For some reason, when you don't have the decoder, it doesn't allow you to have Khoza commentary. But like, that's my favorite kind of commentary, bro. Those guys they bring so much, like, bro. It's all like I always, in some of the videos that I make, I always compare it to, like, you know, like wrestling commentary, like how over the top it is. Some of the simple things that they're describing is like, you know, they describing this like crazy try that was scored, and it brings a lot of much needed flavor to, you know, commentary, and I like what they've done with the whole thing.
Yeah, I would think, like, for me, because I don't really speak Khoza at all.
Yeah.
But I love the energy that it transmits through the screen. And
yeah, exactly.
It would be amazing to get like a Khoza commentator and an English commentator. That, you know, obviously the Khoza guy can speak English as well, and the English guy, maybe if we can find one that speaks Khoza perfect, then and they work out together. And when it gets a bit exciting, the languages switches. It would be like phenomenal.
Yeah. That would be insane, right?
Love that. I would.
Yeah, like you say, the energy that comes across, whether you understand Khoza or not, like you can see this is entertaining commentary.
Absolutely, because it's like listening to South American football, you know, commentary, you know.
Yeah, when they're like goal. Some of that.
It's pure passion.
Shouting for like 1 minute straight. Goal. You're like, oh wait, those guys very excited, bro.
Yeah,
like you almost want to be there.
Absolutely. You are there. You know, it's filling up your room, and it's really getting you involved in the game. And it's also a really cool thing to see. Like, I've been away from South Africa for like 20 years now, but you know, I'm still that's why this podcast is called Calling Home. I'm still very attached to the homeland.
Yeah.
So, and I love to see things like cause of people supporting rugby, people getting behind the Springboks, which is forever like the symbol of oppression and terrible, apartheid and all that kind of stuff. And now it seems like people of all races in South Africa are starting to get behind a project, and I'm finding that like at least one thing is really working well.
Just to touch on that, bro. Like this is what the I guess the dream of like the whole transformation vibe is to really have a team that represents us as a country. Like, and I've always said this: you can achieve both. You can have a very good team like you have right now, and you can try to tick off transformation goals and whatnot. But like you say, bro, like I've never seen, especially like as a Black South African, I've never seen so many people invested in the Springboks and what they do. And there's a real authentic belief that these guys are representing us.
Mm-hmm.
So like I like, it's insane. It's what the country obviously needs. If that's one of the things that's bringing us together, then shout out to the Springboks, and I think it comes from all the way from the director like Rassie. Like, I think Rassie saw how powerful this thing can be if you can make it inclusive of every South African. So then it becomes a national team, a real national team where everyone can feel that, hey man, I'm sure you've realized with like the Guijo squad, the guys that come along and sing like Xhosa songs and whatever. Like I've seen in stadiums, like other people from other races not understanding obviously but people are still clapping and enjoying, because like I say, it's our form of how we celebrate the Springboks and whatever. And it's nice to see that as like a Black man. It's nice to see that, okay, all of our things are being sort of like our like I can see myself in the Springbok culture, you know what I mean? Like it's very well represented. And like you compare the team to the last time we won the World Cup in 2000, so not 2019 but 2007 to now. It's honestly hats off to the team members, the staff, everyone who's actually played a part in showing us how you can work together even if you're from different backgrounds. So I think it's very powerful what they're doing. And I
hope they manage to keep it going after Rassie goes off, and because I'm sure sooner or later he is gonna like find somewhere else to go to find some new challenges. But,
definitely.
Yeah, I know, because he's just that type of guy. But the things that he's put in place, because the important thing is to get people like Sia, to get people like Makoto Mapimpi out of the township schools and get them into like the schools that are actually like feeding the Springboks. Because I don't know if a lot of people that may be watching this don't know, you got like 5 schools from which all the Springboks have been chosen.
Yeah.
If you don't go to that school, you're not going to be a Springbok.
100%. Like your Craig Blooms, your Paul Russes, your Paul Boys, some of the like Craig PE, all that kind of stuff. So that's you. Like Khanyisa and Mampimpi don't come from traditional rugby schools. I think even like Peter Steph Tutoy doesn't come from a huge rugby school. Etzebeth himself comes from Tiger Valley, which is down the road from me here in Cape Town. Delende comes from Milnerton High School. Like these are not rugby producing schools. So that also shows how, like, that also gives hope to kids who are like, okay, just because I played first team at a school that's not recognized, like it doesn't. You can find your way into the big leagues. Like, we don't have to rely on 5 to 7 schools, well-known rugby schools, for talent anymore. There's actually and again, testament to Rassi and them. They went out and went out to find these guys. They
Yeah.
didn't just look at, these are the guys from the top schools. They're gonna be future Springboks. No, they actually went out and was like, okay, cool. Like, we're gonna really look for talent and talent we can invest in. And like Mampimpi's story is like one of the best stories in sport, man. Like, incredible.
Yeah. Every time, like, it brings a tear to my eye about the pictures on his jersey after the.
Oh, that one.
It's incredible. No, oh geez, my camera died. There we go. Let me just switch it to the next one. Fortunately,
Rebuild the comedy industry, and I would say it's going well. Yeah, it's a good space to be in right now. The only other issue I can is that because the economy isn't the best, sometimes stand-up comedy can suffer from that. Because what people don't realize when we put on a show, especially in South Africa, South African, like, we like our people are obviously right now watching their wallets, like, and one of the first things to go when there's a recession or anything is entertainment.
of course.
So if people really are like in bad, like, financial situations, and like as a whole, as a country, that's the common theme, then the first thing to go is entertainment. And the hardest, we probably some of the hardest hit in the entertainment industry, because like, for example, if you're a DJ, you are still guaranteed work. Like, you don't have to be a big DJ to get access to, like, gigs and money.
Yeah.
Whereas in comedy, you have to be quite an established act to be making the money. So also, when you go on a night out, you can go out for like 6-7 hours, party, have your drinks, whatever. Whereas comedy is like, it's 2 hours max. And then sometimes, like, even me as a comedian and as someone who produces shows, you got to actually look at it from a financial standpoint. It's like, you say if a couple decides to go to my comedy show, my tickets are usually between 100 to 150 rand. So say if two of them go, that's, say the ticket's 150, that's 300 rand already. Then on top of that, they're gonna probably go out for dinner. That's probably a 500 to 600. So we're almost at 1,000 rand.
Easy.
And then drinks, Ubers. It's quite. It is sometimes. It is an expense to go watch comedy. So yeah, those are. But yeah, I would like to say, as a South African comedian, it is worth it going at least once a while, once every 2 months, once a month if you can, to go watch quality shows, because the comedians are really, really good.
Yeah, I've been seeing some really good stuff coming out from South Africa in general, because I think there's so much shit happening around the place that it's quite easy to find low-hanging fruit in one way to make a good joke, but also, like, if you really work through it. I mean, like I was telling you before, your Harry Potter's racist routine is fantastic, and people should go and look at it, because it's so like on point, it's
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff is there's plenty of that point of view in South Africa if you want to look for it.
Yeah.
And you go there and you laugh about your problems, and that's what comedy is about. It's about putting your things to the side and maybe like looking at all the issues that you have from another point of view, having a bit of a laugh about it, and then getting your endorphins up and going home after a couple of drinks, and you're stoked. It's
and like, we genuinely as comedians feel like that's the big point of comedy, man, is like, in that hour and a half that you're listening to us, like, to have a laugh and to block out, all the other stuff that's happening in the world. There's a lot happening. And you want to give that comic relief of, like, for that 1.5 hours, people can just be in the moment and be in the room and really have a good time and forget about the real life and real world stresses. And like one thing I've always liked about comedy as well is that it brings so many like when you look at the audience, you see so many. You can just feel that there's so many different people here, different walks of life, and one thing that they all coming together for is to love.
Yeah, yeah.
So it is it is a it is a great tool to bring people together as well, and like a great art form to do that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And it's something that in Italy, it doesn't really exist, stand up. It's starting to come up now in the last couple of years. I actually have friends that are Italians that live in London. They do like an Italian show in London and
Yeah,
shows in Italy. And it's starting to grow, and you're starting to see little, little rooms pop up here and there where there's, and we wouldn't have a proper comedy um, club anyway, because here it was more like a cabaret, like they would come up and do like, like a monologue sort of thing, but it's not
yeah,
really, it wasn't really like stand up nice and, rough and, just,
yeah.
so now it's coming. People are starting to enjoy it, and you can see the same sort of thing happening. It's exactly like you're describing it. People struggle to make money with it because obviously it's a new thing here, and so
Yeah,
cash. But the clubs are starting to understand. The bars are starting to understand that if I have a comedian on a Thursday night, people are going to come.
yeah,
So also that it's helping a little bit. And here, I mean, it's not as bad as in South Africa, but also here the pockets are a bit tight. But there are ways to get around, and there's always enough people to fill up 100-seater somewhere.
yeah.
Yeah, but it's amazing. And who are your guys? Who do you listen to when you who are your favorite comedians?
My favorite comedians, I'll do local and international. So my favorite local comedian is a guy called KG Mokhadi. He's very, very brilliant. He's probably the best writer in South Africa right now. Um, Another comedian that I
Touring the UK
really
now, KG.
sorry.
Wasn't he touring the UK recently? KG or no?
No. But he's actually doing a tour in Netherlands soon.
Right.
But yeah, he won at the South African Comics Choice. He won best solo show. So like he's really on a good trajectory at the moment. A guy called Robbie Collins, who's the South African Comedian of the Year. He is very good, and I enjoy him, so I'll put him on the list. And then there's a guy called Sufiso Renè, and why I put him on the list, he can do comedy in Vernac, in Zulu, and English.
Amazing.
And he sells out crowds in both. So he'll put on a poster, oh, this is an English show, and his shows will fill up, and this is a Zulu show, and that will also sort of full up. So I respect him. Then there's one more is a guy called Alfred Adrian. He's man, like he's one of those guys where he the amount of success he gets is because of the amount of work.
Mm-hmm.
Like his work ethic is one of the highest I've seen in any industry. And he's being rewarded by that. Like he just sold out a three-night show in London, and he did a sold-out tour to Australia and New Zealand. He's going to New York in November. So like he's probably the most inspiring comedian to me right now, because he's really pushing the envelope and backing himself to go to these countries and not just do the circuit, like the club circuit, like have his own show in these countries. Like that is a big risk and gamble, and it's paying off for him, because imagine going to like London, and at the first time you go there, you don't really know many people, but you put in your show there. It's not like you're just gonna go to like different gigs and do like 10 minutes. You're doing your full one-man show there. So yeah, I respect him a lot, and he's also like been very good to me as like a youngster that I am in the game. He's provided some quality advice, and he's very good people. But now international number one of all time is Chris Rock. I don't think I've seen a better comedian than Chris Rock, especially in the 90s. Chris Rock, yeah, he's just the man, right? Like the way he thinks about stuff, incredible. Trevor Noah as well. I'm a big Trevor Noah fan. Well, like I said earlier in the interview, what he brought to the table and how he like people have always had this thing of there's a bit of like jealousy when it comes to Trevor Noah, and like everything people told him he can't do, he's done it. Like there's this documentary, interesting documentary on YouTube. When I don't know how familiar you are with his story, but his first big like super break was when he did his one-man show called Daywalker,
Yeah.
which is like the highest selling South African stand-up comedy thing like ever. And he did that after like 2-3 years of doing comedy. Usually people take like 7 years to do like a one-man show, and he did it in 2 to 3 years, and it was the biggest show South Africa's ever seen. So then he does that, saves my, and people in the documentary, it's wild. Like seasoned comedians are telling him like, this guy's cocky, he's arrogant. Like, who does he think he is? What? But like, that's what I like about him. He had his vision, didn't care about the rest of it, like the comments from the peanut gallery, and then eventually got his money in South Africa and said, guys, I want to take it a step further. America, New York specifically. Then he starts working with the Daily Show. Then all of a sudden takes over. People are still
prize. That was incredible.
People are still doubting him though at that stage. People are still like, yo, who's this guy? Who's the South African guy? Like, what does he know about America? Then it becomes Emmy nominated. Then it's like, you know, what else do guys want from this guy? Like, he's proven that, guys, this is not luck. This is hard work, talent, meeting together and creating.
You don't get the nod from Jon Stewart if he doesn't think that you're up there,
bro. You know what I mean? That's wild. You think Jon Stewart was just doing that because he was like, let me just randomly pick someone?
No. I mean, there was the guy that came after him. You know, it had to be completely different to what he was, because otherwise everybody would just say that it's just another Jon Stewart sort of thing. And
yeah.
And I think that he wanted to give people an international point of view on things. I think that was why he went with Trevor, because he was like, listen, this guy doesn't come from the UK where people think more or less like we do. He comes from the other side of the world, from a country where there are different problems to what we have here. Let's see how he looks at our problems. And I think that was the magic there. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people didn't understand. And I think also the writers didn't figure that out, because sometimes I don't think they used that enough in his work to like actually push on that thing that he was like this guy that's coming in from the point of view from Africa. You know, this is, you know, we got so many issues in America with African Americans, with gays, with this and that. And let's have a look at this guy who comes from another culture completely and see what he thinks about it. You know?
Yeah, and that's it. It's like Trevor also represents, I guess, the rest of the world.
Yeah.
That doesn't, like you said, like doesn't think like America or the UK. And you know, it just gave us a voice to be like, this is how we view some of the things that you guys do. And it's refreshing for, I'm sure when the Americans started to slowly like warm up to him, they were like, oh, okay, cool. So this is how other people can interpret like our politics, our race issues, all the complex issues that pop up in America that we always see online and whatever. Like, and also just the intelligence for him to be able to really go into those sort of topics
Yeah.
and be learned on them, not just, you know, just talk about them for the sake of views or whatever, like to really sort of show that he actually understands these topics. Yeah, it's kudos to him, man.
And I also think it's almost easier for us to understand the Americans than it is for them to understand us, because
Yeah.
we're so their culture is everywhere. So we grew up with American culture. We understand very, very well. And so like it's not that hard for us to like step in and have the right point of view on that kind of stuff. And then also be like, okay, yeah, but look at this. If you're in Nigeria, they'll think this way about this problem. It's like and Americans can't get their head around that. It's just
yeah.
It's like, where is Nigeria? Is that in
Exactly, brother? The Americans think anything out of the USA is just the wasteland, but they don't think anything is part. But back to what you were saying, like I'm say about Nigeria. That's what I'm liking. Some of the countries like Nigeria, India, China, South Korea, that are building their own entertainment industries that are separate from just copying and pasting from America. Because like, even if you look at some of the South African early hip hop artists, they were just trying to copy America. So like, I don't know much about like I think it's called KSI pop or something in South Korea.
K-pop.
K-pop, yeah. Like was so big in South Korea for so long. Now it's being shown on a global scale. Like these guys are like becoming superstars on a global scale, and I think that's something South Africa can also look into. Like I'm sure you've seen the recent trend of the Amapiano genre, music genre in South Africa.
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh yeah, so like Amapiano is like, it's DJs like, I can send you some samples of like the type of music, but that's gone like viral globally. Like you like celebrities in America at their parties, like you'll see on TikTok or Instagram being like, Puff Daddy was hosting this party and so, a South African DJ, his song was playing there. Like even DJ Black Coffee.
Yeah.
He just sold out Madison Square Garden. That's incredible.
No, it's mad.
So it shows that the only sad part is that it seems like we always have to go overseas to take it the next level.
But yeah, I mean, you do, because you sort of have to go where the money is to explode somehow. I mean, look at the Antwoord now. I mean, they were massive here in Italy. Massive. And when I spoke to my mates back home, they were like, oh no, these guys are terrible. Look at,
yeah,
they weren't really loved at home, but they definitely, for those 5 or 6 years where they were like on the crest of the wave, they changed like pop culture completely with our redneck South African sort of
yeah, man, they represented something. They represented something, man, and it came across very well. And yeah, like it's weird when like you say the Antwoord or Black Coffee and some of these are like, I remember, I don't know if you know the band Goldfish.
Yeah, absolutely.
Goldfish were in such high demand in like Ibiza and stuff, like, but sometimes I'd see their gigs here and they're not even sold out. But when they go to Ibiza for like a month, every night is sold out. Yeah. So I think that's why artists have really started to look at, hey man, should I go take the risk overseas where I can actually hustle enough, but to be able to make a living out of this? Like it's becoming more and more of an option. Like even myself, next year I'm saving up to I want to do at least a week in London and hopefully do a show like where it's just my show. I like London because there's quite a big South African community there, so I feel like I'll get a lot of like support and hopefully they'll spread the word or whatever. But going overseas is definitely part of my bigger plan. Like South Africa will always be home. I love it, but to really take my comedy career into the next step, I need to start like looking into doing overseas stints. Even if like right now, obviously it's quite expensive to be like, yo, I'm gonna do a month in London. When I'm not that established, but like I can do a week, I can afford to do a week if I save properly and whatnot. So yeah, that's part of my plan for being able for taking it to the next level.
When you're going to do it, let me know, and I'll put you in touch with some of my mates over there. I'm sure you got a network, but I've got guys over there that do a lot of shows. So maybe you could double book a couple of dates. Get busy.
Yeah, man. Yeah. That would be the one, dude. That would be much appreciated, bro.
Cool. No, and where does your material come from? Like, what is your inspiration?
My material, I just try tell stories about like my life and stuff that I've experienced, and that's half of it. Then the other half is I like if you've seen my Instagram reels, and this is something I've told few people about, but my Instagram reels are always potential comedy bits. So what I used to do before, like Facebook, I used to put out posts and then see how the reaction is. But that's like a comedy joke, sort of premise or whatever. I'll put it on Facebook. But like now that Facebook, I don't know if you noticed, Facebook's pretty much dead. Like,
yeah, no, it doesn't work anymore.
No, like
at all.
Sometimes I'm like, I don't even feel like posting my shows, like my posters on there, but I post it just because it is another access to people.
Yeah, so people can...
It's a free platform to use to advertise, so I'll still put my stuff on there regardless. But the Instagram, a few of the reels that I do there, I've actually written down and expanded it. So like when I get real feedback from something that I knew I was putting on there to test out, it really helps me a lot. So then I can go back and be like, okay, let me flesh this bit out because it got a good reception and people enjoy it.
It definitely works. And I saw a couple that really hit me were like the Blade. We got to put some more love on Blade, the comic book character.
Yeah. I've actually been doing that bit, and it's been working very nicely. So I'm enjoying it. Like, especially when it translates from the Instagram to the actual like stage and people like it, that's Christmas come early for me, brother. That's probably the most rewarding process because it's like, okay, cool. I was actually able to find the real joke in this little bit. So it's a good process and I enjoy it.
Yeah, we've been talking about also like my brother. We're big comic book fans and movie what's it called, superhero movie fans. So we often talk about Blade because it really was like one of those forgotten. Like he really was the first black superhero, And
he was number one, bro. He was numero uno, bro. Like, and he was like Blade was just a badass,
dude. I remember Blade in Margate at the cinema. In 1999, it must have been something like that, maybe 90.
Yeah, man. Like,
it was.
I keep hearing rumors of a reboot, but like,
they're talking about it. I'm sure they're gonna do it.
I'm almost certain they're gonna do it. I'm sure there's money to be made from it.
Yeah.
It would be weird not seeing Wesley Snipes. So he made that character badass.
Perfect. He was perfect.
Like, yeah.
Cast now, like who do you think would be the perfect Blade from like this generation? Oh, it's a tough one, huh? Because you need somebody with that sort of that cut face.
Yeah.
It's gonna be. They're gonna have to find somebody new. I think somebody.
Yeah, they're gonna be able to. They also need to find someone who can, for like 3 movies in a row, not smile. Like Blade, the lack of emotion made Blade as well. Like he was just like, dude, I'm here to kill vampires. I don't care about niceties and being polite. I'm here for a job. So I heard there's that guy from I think it's something Ali. He won Oscars recently. Apparently, he's the front runner to be the next Blade. I don't know his name fully, but I know he won an Oscar recently, and there've been rumors that have linked him quite a lot to being Blade.
Let me check it out. Let's see if I can find it really quickly. New director, blah 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 blah. Ugh. Who's this guy? No, it doesn't say. Mahershala Ali, the rap artist.
Yeah. That's the guy.
He actually looks pretty well. He looks just like Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, when I first saw it, I was like, okay, cool, man. There could be something here. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, I see where you guys are going with this. There could be something here. But as a real diehard Blade fan, I'm excited to see what the new look and feel would be. And I would really like him to make it his own. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Give us a new angle of Blade, right? Like, give us a.
And they needed to give it direct, like a proper director as well. You know, like the guy that did the Joker, or
yeah, man. Like, I feel like this time around they could go in depth into like his origin story, because like his origin story is like really like a quick 3 minutes. Like, oh, his mom got bit by a vampire.
Yeah.
Now he's half vampire. Or some of those like you said, the new directors have given such depth to some comic book characters. Like, did you watch the latest Batman?
I haven't seen it yet. It's on the list, but I haven't seen it. My brother about it all.
You'll enjoy that. There's a lot of they go deeper than just, oh, this is a superhero. But like, even do you watch the Dark Knight ones? Like,
Of course, yeah, the Dark Knight.
Yeah, you see, that's not like our Batman in the 90s. Like, you look back at the 90s Batman with like Mr. Freeze and stuff, you're like, yeah, there was no
cheese, and it was like, it looked like a comic book rather than.
Yeah, it was. Sometimes I looked at it and I was like, these guys got some serious actors for those Batman movies in the 90s. Like, they had Tommy Lee Jones, they had Arnold Schwarzenegger, they had
Jim Carrey,
Val Kilmer, all around that franchise, and it still flopped.
It was just, because it looked terrible. It just looked cheesy the whole way through.
Yeah.
But I mean, the first ones were really good. They were the Tim Burton ones, and then they got rid of Tim Burton because he was just too weird. But then, along comes Nolan and makes three of the greatest. Because he treated them like a real movie, he didn't treat them like a comic book movie.
100%. The comic book stuff was almost like the last bit of it. Yeah. He was like, he made real storylines and showed all the character flaws and what, but like he did a deep dive into it, and he took it. You can see that
it wasn't made to sell toys. Like the old ones were always made to sell toys, and like that's where the money would come from, all the merch and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, fuck it, I'm just going to make a really great movie.
Yeah.
And see how it goes. Dude, I wanted to get back to something a little bit more serious. And we were talking about the box earlier, how they're uniting and everything, and also like how comedy is sort of uniting is a uniting factor. What do you think? Because I still see obviously there's still a lot of division in South Africa. There's rich versus poor. Yeah. This is white, whatever. It's so much thing. What do you think could be like a unifying goal that people can be like, okay, let's work for this, which isn't just like, let's have electricity.
Yeah. That's a good one, bro. It's a very good question, man. And I think one thing is, like, firstly, I think we as South Africans have a collective responsibility to sort of start shaping the country that we want. because we're not gonna like government's not gonna do it.
Mm-mm.
So I feel like we need to stop depending on government. And I think, to be honest with you, this country might need a shake up in leadership uh, from people that have actually governed properly. Like, and I think that's what South Africans need to come together and show their power within voting. Voting is huge. Voting is a direct way to say, "Hey, man, we're no longer gonna let this fly. We need new leadership. You guys have had 30 years plus. We need to actually change things up." So I strongly believe that if we can all come together and actually show that our voices, our our togetherness can really achieve a lot. Yeah, it's always complex in South Africa. There's like there's racial stuff. There's all these things like even voting for parties and whatever is split along racial like sort of lines and whatnot. So I think we actually need to come together and be like, can we start? Not like there is issues with South African race and whatever, but to improve South Africa, we have to start looking at what can bring us together more than what's divisive.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
And focus on that. And like literally build a South Africa that we can be proud of, instead of currently it's hard to even find people that are positive. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen the stats, like a lot of the people under 25 in South Africa, most of them don't even want to vote.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Because they say that no party represents. But that's I almost wish I could target that audience and be like, guys, this is your opportunity to actually build a South Africa that you guys want. Like, if it needs be, some of the youth go speak to parties and be like, yo, guys, we're not represented. What are you gonna do for us? I think that's a very proactive way to like be like, guys, we don't know who to vote for because none of you guys speak to us. So I think whoever can crack that code can really bring the youth towards them and have a large voting base from the youth, which is inevitably going to be the future of South Africa. So, yeah, man, it's I never liked the division that happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that was unfortunate, to put it mildly. But from my point of view, like from being over here, I mean, my family was Italian, so when I was is Italian. So when I was living in South Africa, I lived in like an Italian sort of setup. So I was always a bit of the outsider, even when I was at school and whatnot, because my family, we spoke Italian at home and whatever. And and it was always like, for me, the thing that we need to do is just look at the positives, look at where we are. And I understand that it's really hard to do that when you don't have electricity at home and you don't have food on the table and you don't have a job. And that's privilege talking. You're like, let's look at the positives. I understand that 100%. But it's the only way that we're going to be able to get anywhere, unfortunately. So if you can look at the positives, really has to. And then, I mean, my uncles still live in Johannesburg, so they're always typical people that had a really good life till 1991, 92, and then like the thing changed quite a lot, of course, for them, and so they're quite negative in general, because they're like a country that is slowly falling apart in so many ways, and I'm like, yeah, but why don't you guys move? I mean, you're Italian, you can just move back to Italy. And it's like, oh no, I've got a beautiful house, I've got a beautiful pool, I've got my kids, the schools are amazing. And I'm like, okay, cool. So that's already like 5 positive things that you just like said. So just
100%. That's a good way to look at it, right? Like they've mentioned things that are actually going that are actually, some people would be like, yo, but I want what you have.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can't have pools in Italy. It's impossible. We live all over.
yeah, yeah, yeah. How is the adjustment, if you don't mind me asking, how is the adjustment to, like, because I have a lot of friends who've moved to the UK, and they went from living in digs here
Hmm.
with pools and grass and whatever, and then it's like they sharing with three random people in a small apartment just outside Wimbledon. So it's like
Yeah, it's
it must be an adjustment for people.
it's okay. Well, I mean, I came here just after being a student, and like I didn't really have that much cash as a student, so I lived in quite really terrible digs when I was in Durban.
Yeah,
And so it was like I was okay because I just came over here, and it actually was a little bit better for me in many ways. But the real adjustment is, you know, just like the freedom that you have in South Africa of let's go have braai somewhere, and everybody
yeah,
has a little space that you can braai in, and people aren't like stressed about every single little thing. Like here, it's like very complicated. Everything has to be a big production, whereas there it's just like you call five mates, let's get together, let's have a dope, let's watch a game, let's do what, and it's very simple. Let's throw a ball around and play some touch rugby or whatever.
yeah.
Where if you want to play touch rugby, you have to like join a league. You have to find everybody.
I will, I will.
Five-a-side soccer, it's like this massive thing every single time. So like I've stopped basically doing any sort of organized sport because everything is just like it's really like a massive mission. So you don't have that basic freedom of just do what you want when you sort of want to do it. But
Yeah,
apart from that, like Italy, the good thing about it is that we got really great weather, not like London, so it's basically summer till yesterday, and then we'll have like 3 months of a bit of cold weather, and then we'll get to like really nice, super cool. It's like, it's just really, really positive. It's a bit like Cape Town sort of thing.
uh,
I mean, it gets really cold for like 2 months and then you're okay, but it doesn't rain all the time. And then the food is great, and you really there are things that you can just like build on. But every time I come back to South Africa, I always go to Cape Town when I come back for I often work there. I'm a photographer. I didn't tell you.
okay.
I'm a photographer, so I'm often coming back to do shoots in Cape Town. And every single time I'm like, I need to move back. I need to just figure out a way. But unfortunately, with my job, it's not possible. It's just
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah. So one thing I must ask also is, like, I always feel this can be coming from a point of privilege as well, but I feel like the government services are much better in sort of Europe.
yeah, they are. They are. There's more people. I mean, we have 60 million people like South Africa and Italy, but we're earning 20 times more, just basically.
Yes.
Um, and then we had the privilege of having the 80s here, which created a lot of wealth, like just basic wealth. So everything was built up in those years from 1950 after the Second World War till the 1980s, and now we're on a bit of a downhill run since the early 90s. Things are falling apart here as well, very slowly, because obviously there are so many like safety measures in place that it takes a bit of time. But we have an aging population. I think 70% of Italians are over 40. So
Yeah.
which means that the younger people are paying the pensions for everybody else. Nobody dies because the health system sort of works. So you live till you're 80, 90 years old, easy, no problem.
Yeah.
People aren't having children because, you have like one kid because everybody lives in an apartment. So you have like one, maybe two kids max. So
Yeah.
that's all, those are all issues that we deal with here. But yeah, we have free healthcare. We have relatively free education. It does work, but it's just because we have the infrastructure to do it, and it's getting taken away slowly, all of this kind of stuff. Like now the free education used to be for everybody. Now it's just for like if you're really, really below a certain threshold, especially for tertiary education, for for what they call it, K through 12 or whatever it is, it's still free. um but a lot of people do, like, like I often, because of the way my job works, I don't have set days that I can maybe go to the doctor. So I pay for my own, I pay for private medical exams because I have
Yeah.
to go that day when I'm not on set somewhere. So for me, it doesn't really change much, but I saw with my family that as they get older, you get really well taken care of here. Yeah, but
So back to what you're saying, like obviously here we can really tell the difference between government and private hospital. I feel like maybe your guys' side is like almost like no.
here it's more a question of convenience and timing rather than
Yes.
quality. So you'll get
Yes.
quality of work if you go to private. It'll be the same doctor often. You can just book, because the doctor will do like maybe the morning will be for public service and in the afternoon he'll do his private hours. So you can
Okay.
in doctor maybe, but it's that's it's just a matter, you can't always go through the public health service because especially after COVID, after all the problems that we've had, with shutdowns and all that, everybody's backed up. All the cancer screenings, all that kind of stuff is all backed up. So now that, like, if you book an MRI, you'll have it in like 6 months if you don't do it privately.
Jeez.
So that's a bit of a nightmare, but it's better than not having an MRI at all,
100%. Yeah, that's what could happen here, bro. In South Africa, you can go undiagnosed. If you go the public route, you'll be undiagnosed for a good year, not knowing what is going on, bro. So, yeah, man.
That's the thing. Also, South Africa, we have this thing where there are 60 million people in a massive, massive territory, even though like most of the people living around PE, Cape Town, Joburg, and whatnot. But still, you have to bring services to all these people. And the apartheid government had prepared for 6 million people and not 60.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden now you give service to 60 million people, as it should be done. And obviously it couldn't withstand it. So there had to be like a lot of building, a lot of expenses. And I don't know, I've seen some things like every now and again, I try to like go and see all the good things the ANC has done, because I don't want to be that guy that's always like, the piece of shit. They have tried, of course, they've gotten some things right. There's a lot of RDP projects that it just takes forever to get it done, and then obviously there's too much corruption.
Yeah.
But
yeah, man, like that's probably some of the worst stuff, like especially the corruption that happened around when it was when the pandemic hit, like money's going missing and stuff. That was really sad and painful to watch as a South African. Like, that money was really. I feel like I feel like a lot of lives could have been saved if we had acted sooner and actually made sure the money was going where it's going. But like you said, it's interesting that you say that as not an outsider, I guess, for someone who's living abroad that's South African. Like you can't fault that there have been like real good stuff that government has done since then, but like there hasn't been that extra gear now where it's like, let's really take the country forward. Like, let's up the standards of education. Let's up the standards of service delivery. So
I feel I'm very positive. I think it's going to be one of those, sooner or later, it has to happen. We might get darker before we get better, but I'm sure sooner or later someone is going to come to power that has the right like nurse to get things going, and he just is going to click sooner or later. I've got this feeling because it's there. It's all there to be done. Like the people are amazing. We have so much knowledge. Like if you look at all the billionaires that are around the world that come from South Africa, you're like, oh my God, how is it possible that our schools develop these people? It's like, it's incredible that there's such a big percentage of really, really successful South Africans outside of South Africa. It's madness. And so like, I've got a feeling that sooner or later this is going to click, and hopefully it'll happen after the next elections. That would be ideal if the next like 5-10 years, because South Africa should be a powerhouse. It shouldn't be a country that's
it shouldn't be involved in anything mediocre, man.
No.
Like you said, it should be like the leading country in Africa, like lead by example. There should not be this high corruption and whatnot. We should really, and this is not to impress the Western world or anything. It's just the potential is to fulfill our own potential.
Of
I
course.
want to see us fulfill our own potential. I don't really care about what but like I would like in the future to, like for the other serious countries to look at us and be like, oh damn,
Yeah, we want a part of that. Let's.
look at South, yeah, exactly. Look at South Africa now. Damn, like a couple of years ago, we were thinking that, oh,
Oh, lost you.
and
Incredible.
remember they got us in the T20, I think it was.
Yeah, yeah, what is it? 2021, well, last year. It was last year.
Yeah, last year or the year before. So I don't know what's going on there, but like they seem to have our number, man. Like,
Yeah. Let's hope nothing else
and
is, uh,
but this weekend's gonna be a big one. We've got England, South Africa, cricket, and rugby.
yeah, it's gonna be amazing. We're gonna break a lot of English hearts this weekend, hopefully.
But I hope both teams are ready to do that because there was nothing better than beating England like we did in the 2019 World Cup final.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I feel like those guys in 2019, they coach Eddie Jones, they also had this belief that like, nah, this is our World Cup, right?
Yeah, yeah. They
And
thought
then
it was done. They thought it was done.
yeah,
I don't know how, because I was very confident. I don't know, like I was super confident, like into the last couple of games, because they just had that look in their eye, the South Africans. And I know a lot of people were like still thinking, we're not going to make it, the English, but I was super. I don't know. There was just something about Rassi and the players that he put together and how he's motivating them that I was just like, oh no, you've got this.
one thing is back Rusty. I keep telling guys, because especially this team sheet that was just released now for the quarterfinal game was
Yeah.
like Corbus Reiner was like at scrum half. Jasper Bisa got taken out. They like
They played
even
the five,
during
not the six.
yeah,
They did the 5-3 split instead of the 6-2, which
you know what I mean. There was some things where it was like, but I just realized, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. He's not doing this to be, and we can back him. Like even he made the call to take off Sia in like the 50th minute or something, like
early.
quite quite early on in the game. But the impact players came and they stepped the tempo up. I mean, a guy like Dion Fourie like doesn't get enough credit, I think. Like,
That guy's a bloody legend. Like
bro,
last year, watching him in the Stormers, I was like, this guy, where has he been? The last couple of seasons, he's just been exploding everywhere. He steals everything. He's just got mongrel the whole time.
dude, him and Quaka Smith came on and they brought some. They were hungry, bro. They had that thing that would change. We're not losing today, kind of vibe. Like they came on the field and they were like, nah, not under my watch, kind of vibe. You know what I mean? They had that energy.
I was watching the game with a French friend of mine, and he was
Yeah,
like, who is that little blonde motherfucker? He called him a Barbie. And he's like, now the Barbies come on, and you guys are gonna.
yeah.
I was like, dude, you don't want that guy in your face. And he's like, who's this guy? He cut off all the lines, all the passing lines were just gone. And he was just tackling like a psychopath.
Yeah.
Like, I
I
love it.
mean, the other countries don't have a backup plan like we do on the bench. Our
Yeah,
bench is by far the best in the world.
nice.
Like that's what I like. You have guys who could easily start. Like that's why sometimes the dilemma that the coaches have, the Springbok coaches have, is a good dilemma to have. It's like, do you start, say if he's fit, do you start Lut Diaga or do you start Arge Snyman? Like, that's a good problem to have.
And for them, it's not even a problem. They know exactly who they're going to start when, because they know
Yeah.
they got all these graphs. I think it's like, okay, we play him against that guy, and we'll play that guy against that guy. They know exactly. I don't think they have trouble, like going to sleep at night because they have. It's so scientific.
And there's never a sense of like sourness or like, any bad vibes. It's like each person already has their role sorted out and it's been communicated to them properly, and then they just like, okay, this is my part in the Springbok team. Let me do this 110%.
Yeah.
So if I'm not part of the main squad, but I can really see in those practices the guys who aren't in the 23 really pushing the guys who
Mm-mm.
are in the 23 and not being like, I don't care. I'm not in the 23, so this doesn't matter to me. I feel that sort of energy from the Springbok camp and in general, that like Rassie has spoken to guys properly and be like, my guy, this is your impact to the squad, but and the guy will take on that responsibility and do it to his fullest, not half-hearted and whatnot. So yeah, man, it's great to see.
Guy I feel the most for is Joseph Dweba. That poor guy. Malcolm Marx.
Yo, bro, what does he have to do to get in,
I
dude?
know, dude. I love, that he's one of my favorite players, like of all time. Like, I mean, his line out throwing isn't amazing, but his open play is phenomenal. That guy.
Like the times he's played for Box and even for the Stormers, right? He shows up in the trams, gets meters,
Yeah,
knows how to offload, knows how to pass. Like he's a very active player, but I think I think he can count himself unlucky for not being brought back.
yeah, me too, me too. I think they unfortunately they needed Pollard in the team, and they wanted to have in the team, and probably more for because Rassi put so much weight on experience, so he'd rather have like a team full of very experienced players, and Dweba doesn't have it yet. But I mean, he's going to be in the plans for the future for sure.
For the future, yeah, for sure.
But
And yeah, I won't lie, he can really like. I would understand his frustration and disappointment because I thought that it was a no-brainer that he's gonna be the next one up.
yeah, of course.
Um,
Who would
but
have
like you say, I hope this.
Faria,
Yeah,
who would have thought they would have played Faria as a second change hooker? First change hooker.
yeah,
That's like only a psychopath would think that.
yeah. But I hope it's motivating for like just on that topic. I feel there were a few guys before the World Cup who I thought had a good opportunity to sort of put themselves in Springbok conversation. One of the other guys I've spoken about, like with my friends and peers, is I thought Apalele Fassi might be a breakthrough act for the Springboks, but I don't know what happened, but he just didn't crack it at that level.
But he's also been struggling in the Sharks a little bit. The last couple,
Yeah,
he wasn't really on fire, and there wasn't any space. Who do you drop from the backs and put in Fassi?
yeah.
So I think Kane and Mooney came in, and he like did such a massive shift there, and then and then what's his name? The number 11 wing. Curtly Aronson, he just comes in and he scores every single game.
Incredible.
I feel he didn't have space anymore. It's mad.
And you know what one thing about like Curtly Aronson and these guys, a couple of years ago in the like Heineken Meyer regime, these guys were deemed too small.
Yeah.
I remember back in the day, Nick Mallet suggesting that Cheslin moved to Stramov, saying he'd be a excellent test level Stramov. He doesn't know if he could cut it at wing. Look where we're at now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm glad that mentality shifted with the new sort of Bok coaches and whatnot, where they actually Curtly Aronson, Cheslin Colby ticked all the boxes that they wanted, and then they put them in. There wasn't a thing of, oh, these guys are too small. You don't ever feel that they're too small. They do everything at a high level, tackling, proper tackling.
It's like maybe the fact that everybody thought they were too small, they had to get so much better.
Yes.
Just sit on their laurels at all, so they had to really like push it and just.
I would love to see like just Cheslin Colby himself, his training regime, because like you say, I feel like he's always looked at the level and been like, okay, this is say what everyone else is doing. I'm gonna have to do 50% more than that because people are already assuming he's too small. or whatever. So I think he's definitely put in the work from that angle to be like, yo, guys, um, I know for a fact I have to work just as hard as anyone.
Yeah, yeah. Brother, I think that's a great way to close this. Thank you so much for your time. I had a great chat, and hopefully we can do it again. It'll be bloody
Yeah, man. I'd love to do one uh, closer to the end of the World Cup, maybe just after the end of the World Cup. Hopefully, we'll do one where we're celebrating.
Why not?
And yeah, we could definitely do it again. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. I really enjoyed it. It's nice to also get a view from someone in Italy, bro. Like I I don't know anyone else that's South African to me.
Well, dude,
So I'm glad that I could also get in touch with someone not from the traditional like sort of expat sort of scenarios where it's like, oh, you're speaking to someone from Australia or London or Dubai. Like Italy, yeah, is definitely a place I didn't expect to find a lot of South Africans, but here we are, and we connected very well.
But we all look at home and miss it. So any chance there is to get to hear the accent and talk about rugby and politics is it's perfect.
Yeah, man. I really enjoy your platform, man. Like I said, bro, if you wanted me to join again, I'll definitely make time and we can make it happen, bro. But again, thank you for the opportunity, and it was a really good chat, bro.
And dude, let's just tell people where they can find you so that they can follow. And
okay, so people can find me Jamjam the comedian on Instagram. Khanyisa Jamjam's my YouTube page. So people can like and subscribe there. Khanyisa Jamjam is my Facebook page as well. Yeah, that's pretty much where they can find me and interact with me. And yeah, that's where I'm at.
Cool, buddy. Everybody go and follow him because it really is a really good Joel. And hopefully we'll talk again soon. Please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the reminder bell. Also, if you agree or disagree with anything I've said, make sure to say so down below in the comments, and I will definitely be engaging with you over there. We can have a bit of fun and a bit of back and forth. Also, if you have any ideas for future guests, people that you'd really like us to talk to, please also shoot those in the comments or send us a direct mail on Instagram, and we can really have some fun with that.